Hello, ladies, and welcome to our new Bible reading series. I'm Cindra Enlow from heavenlyplace.com, and this year, as we read through the Bible, we'll explore God's incredible story of love and redemption. If you're looking for a Bible reading plan that's simple and doable, this is it. So let's get started and discover the heart of God together, one chapter at a time. Hello, ladies, and welcome back to our one-year Bible reading plan. This is week 27, day 2. And our scheduled reading for today is 2 Kings chapters 5 through 9. So today's stories are continuing of the things that we've already read about. The big picture being that King Solomon died, and then immediately the nation of Israel was split into two kingdoms, Israel in the north, Judah in the south. And we'll see through these next couple of readings that kings are coming and kings are fighting, and we'll see that some of the kings do serve God, but most of them do not. Israel is the northern kingdom, and it has no godly king at all so far. They've been deep in idolatry and rebellion. And then Judah, which is the southern kingdom, has had a few kings who seek after the Lord, but they've also had their share of problems. We've also seen that the prophets Elijah and now Elisha have ministered during this time, mostly to the northern kingdom, calling them to repent and to turn to God. And what's amazing is that even in this time when the nation is unfaithful, God still works through individuals, and He's still working miracles, and He's still allowing His prophets to prophesy and to teach. You know, He hasn't given up on His people. In today's reading, though, we see the story of Naaman, he's a powerful army commander who is healed of leprosy. After they had attacked Israel, taken the people, one of the girls that were captive suggested that Naaman go to Elisha to be healed. And through a very humble act of obedience, Naaman is healed, and he also chooses Yahweh, God, to be his one true God. And then as Elisha's ministry continues in chapters 6, 7, and 8, we see God's power revealed through a floating axe head, which was made out of iron. He multiplies food, and he heals the sick, and even prophesies of coming judgment. And then chapter 9, things get a little tense as Jehu is anointed king, and secretly, by the way, and he begins to carry out God's judgment on the wicked house of Ahab and the horrible queen Jezebel. And it just shows us again that God doesn't overlook sin. He's patient, but He's also just. And here's where we see the heart of God. In the middle of a divided and rebellious nation, God still heals, and He still speaks, and He still calls people to Himself. He's still saving and redeeming. Our God is a God who desires relationship, and we see it throughout the whole Bible. All right, ladies, let's get started with today's reading, 2 Kings chapters 5 through 9. 2 Kings 5. Now Naaman, captain of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him Yahweh had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. The Syrians had gone out in bands and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little girl, and she waited on Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, I wish that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. Then he would heal him of his leprosy. Someone went in and told his Lord, saying, The girl who is from the land of Israel said this. The king of Syria said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. He departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when this letter has come to you, behold, I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, that you may heal him of his leprosy. When the king of Israel had read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man sends to me to heal a man of his leprosy? But please consider and see how he seeks a quarrel against me. It was so, when Elisha the man of God heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariots, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall come again to you, and you shall be clean. But Naaman was angry, and went away, and said, Behold, I thought, he will surely come out to me, and stand, and call on the name of Yahweh his God, and wave his hand over the place, and heal the leper. Aren't Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. His servants came near and spoke to him and said, My father, if the prophet had asked you to do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? How much rather then, when he says to you, Wash and be clean? Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. He returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him, and he said, See now, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore please take a gift from your servant. But he said, As Yahweh lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none. He urged him to take it, but he refused. Naaman said, If not, then please let 2 mules load of earth be given to your servant, for your servant will from now on offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice to other gods, but to Yahweh. In this thing may Yahweh pardon your servant. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, may Yahweh pardon your servant in this thing. He said to him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, Behold, my master has spared this Naaman the Syrian, in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. As Yahweh lives, I will run after him and take something from him. So Gehazi followed after Naaman. When Naaman saw one running after him, he came down from the chariot to meet him, and said, Is all well? He said, All is well. My master has sent me, saying, Behold, even now 2 young men of the sons of the prophets have come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of clothing. Naaman said, Be pleased to take 2 talents. He urged him, and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of clothing, and laid them on 2 of his servants, and they carried them before him. When he came to the hill, he took them from their hand and stored them in the house. Then he let the men go, and they departed. But he went in and stood before his master. Elisha said to him, Where did you come from, Gehazi? He said, Your servant went nowhere. He said to him, Didn't my heart go with you when the man turned from his chariot to meet you? Is it a time to receive money, and to receive garments, and olive groves, and vineyards, and sheep and cattle, and male servants and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman will cling to you and to your offspring forever. He went out from his presence a leper, as white as snow. 2 Kings 6. The sons of the prophets said to Elisha, See now, the place where we live and meet with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and each man take a beam from there, and let's make a place there where we may live. He answered, Go. One said, Please be pleased to go with your servants. He answered, I will go. So he went with them. When they came to the Jordan, they cut down wood. But as one was cutting down a tree, the axe head fell into the water. Then he cried out and said, Alas, my master, for it was borrowed. The man of God asked, Where did it fall? He showed him the place. He cut down a stick, threw it in there, and made the iron float. He said, Take it. So he put out his hand and took it. Now the king of Syria was at war against Israel, and he took counsel with his servants, saying, My camp will be in such and such a place. The man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, Beware that you not pass this place, for the Syrians are coming down there. The king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and he saved himself there, not once or twice. The king of Syria's heart was very troubled about this. He called his servants and said to them, Won't you show me which of us is for the king of Israel? One of his servants said, No, my lord, O king. But Elisha the prophet, who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. He said, Go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. He was told, Behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore he sent horses, chariots, and a great army there. They came by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God had risen early and gone out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was around the city. His servant said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? He answered, Don't be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Elisha prayed and said, Yahweh, please open his eyes, that he may see. Yahweh opened the young man's eyes, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire around Elisha. When they came down to him, Elisha prayed to Yahweh and said, Please strike this people with blindness. He struck them with blindness according to Elisha's word. Elisha said to them, This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. He led them to Samaria. When they had come into Samaria, Elisha said, Yahweh, open these men's eyes, that they may see. Yahweh opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the middle of Samaria. The king of Israel said to Elisha, when he saw them, My father, shall I strike them? Shall I strike them? He answered, You shall not strike them. Would you strike those whom you have taken captive, with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink, then go to their master. He prepared a great feast for them. After they ate and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Syria stopped raiding the land of Israel. After this, Ben-hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his army and went up and besieged Samaria. There was a great famine in Samaria. Behold, they besieged it until a donkey's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried to him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. He said, If Yahweh doesn't help you, where could I get help for you? From the threshing floor or from the winepress? Then the king asked her, What is your problem? She answered, This woman said to me, Give your son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and ate him. And I said to her on the next day, Give up your son, that we may eat. And she has hidden her son. When the king heard the words of the woman, he tore his clothes. Now he was passing by on the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth underneath on his body. Then he said, God do so to me, and more also, if the head of Elisha the son of Shaphat stays on him today. But Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. Then the king sent a man from before him. But before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, Do you see how the son of a murderer has sent to take away my head? Behold, when the messenger comes, shut the door, and hold the door shut against him. Isn't the sound of his master's feet behind him? While he was still talking with them, behold, the messenger came down to him. Then he said, Behold, this evil is from Yahweh. Why should I wait for Yahweh any longer? 2 Kings 7. Elisha said, Hear Yahweh's word. Yahweh says, Tomorrow about this time a seah of fine flour will be sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, in the gate of Samaria. Then the captain on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, Behold, if Yahweh made windows in heaven, could this thing be? He said, Behold, you will see it with your eyes, but will not eat of it. Now there were 4 leprous men at the entrance of the gate. They said to one another, Why do we sit here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we will die there. If we sit still here, we also die. Now therefore come, and let's surrender to the army of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we will live, and if they kill us, we will only die. They rose up in the twilight to go to the camp of the Syrians. When they had come to the outermost part of the camp of the Syrians, behold, no man was there. For the Lord had made the army of the Syrians to hear the sound of chariots and the sound of horses, even the noise of a great army. And they said to one another, Behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to attack us. Therefore they arose and fled in the twilight and left their tents, their horses, and their donkeys, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. When these lepers came to the outermost part of the camp, they went into one tent and ate and drank, then carried away silver, gold, and clothing, and went and hid it. Then they came back and entered into another tent and carried things from there also, and went and hid them. Then they said to one another, "We aren't doing right. Today is a day of good news, and we keep silent. If we wait until the morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now therefore come, let's go and tell the king's household." So they came and called to the city gatekeepers, and they told them, "We came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, not even a man's voice, but the horses tied and the donkeys tied, and the tents as they were." Then the gatekeepers called out and told it to the king's household within. The king arose in the night and said to his servants, "I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we are hungry, therefore they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, 'When they come out of the city, we shall take them alive and get into the city.'" One of his servants answered, "Please let some people take 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they are like all the multitude of Israel who are left in it. Behold, they are like all the multitude of Israel who are consumed. Let's send and see." Therefore they took 2 chariots with horses, and the king sent them out to the Syrian army, saying, "Go and see." They went after them to the Jordan, and behold, all the path was full of garments and equipment which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. The messengers returned and told the king, "The people went out and plundered the camp of the Syrians." So a seah of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to Yahweh's word. The king had appointed the captain on whose hand he leaned to be in charge of the gate, and the people trampled over him in the gate, and he died as the man of God had said, who spoke when the king came down to him. It happened as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 seahs of barley for a shekel, and a seah of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. And the captain answered the man of God and said, "Now behold, if Yahweh made windows in heaven, might such a thing be? Behold, you will see it with your eyes, but will not eat of it." It happened like that to him, for the people trampled over him in the gate, and he died. 2 Kings 8. Now Elisha had spoken to the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, "Arise and go, you and your household, and stay for a while wherever you can, for Yahweh has called for a famine. It will also come on the land for 7 years." The woman arose and did according to the man of God's word. She went with her household and lived in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. At the end of 7 years, the woman returned from the land of the Philistines. Then she went out to beg the king for her house and for her land. Now the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, "Please tell me all the great things that Elisha has done." As he was telling the king how he had restored to life him who was dead, behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life begged the king for her house and for her land. Gehazi said, "My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life." When the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed to her a certain officer, saying, "Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now." Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. He was told, "The man of God has come here." The king said to Hazael, "Take a present in your hand and go meet the man of God, and inquire of Yahweh by him, saying, 'Will I recover from this sickness?'" So Hazael went to meet him and took a present with him, even of every good thing of Damascus, 40 camels burdened, and came and stood before him, and said, "Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, has sent me to you, saying, 'Will I recover from this sickness?'" Elisha said to him, "Go tell him you will surely recover. However, Yahweh has shown me that he will surely die." He settled his gaze steadfastly on him until he was ashamed. Then the man of God wept. Hazael said, "Why do you weep, my lord?" He answered, "Because I know the evil that you will do to the children of Israel. You will set their strongholds on fire, and you will kill their young men with the sword, and you will dash their little ones in pieces, and rip up their pregnant women." Hazael said, "But what is your servant, who is but a dog, that he could do this great thing?" Elisha answered, "Yahweh has shown me that you will be king over Syria." Then he departed from Elisha and came to his master, who said to him, What did Elisha say to you? He answered, He told me that you will surely recover. On the next day he took a thick cloth, dipped it in water, and spread it on the king's face so that he died. Then Hazael reigned in his place. In the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat being king of Judah, then Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 32 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did Ahab's house, for he married Ahab's daughter. He did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight. However, Yahweh would not destroy Judah for David his servant's sake, as he promised him to give to him a lamb for his children always. In his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and made a king over themselves. Then Joram crossed over to Zair, and all his chariots with him, and he rose up by night and struck the Edomites, who surrounded him with the captains of the chariots, and the people fled to their tents. So Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah to this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. The rest of the acts of Joram, and all that he did, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Joram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in David's city, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his place. In the 12th year of Joram the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. He walked in the way of Ahab's house, and did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight, as did Ahab's house, for he was the son-in-law of Ahab's house. He went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to war against Hazael, king of Syria, at Ramoth-Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. King Joram returned to be healed in Jezreel from the wounds which the Syrians had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael, king of Syria. Ahaziel, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel because he was sick. 2 Kings 9. Elisha the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets and said to him, Put your belt on your waist, take this vial of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth-Gilead. When you come there, find Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, and go in and make him rise up from among his brothers, and take him to an inner room. Then take the vial of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Yahweh says, I have anointed you king over Israel. Then open the door, flee, and don't wait. So the young man, the young prophet, went to Ramoth-Gilead. When he came, behold, the captains of the army were sitting. Then he said, I have a message for you, captain. Jehu said, To which one of us? He said, To you, O captain. He arose and went into the house. Then he poured the oil on his head and said to him, Yahweh the God of Israel says, I have anointed you king over the people of Yahweh, even over Israel. You must strike your master Ahab's house, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of Yahweh, at the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab will perish. I will cut off from Ahab every one who urinates against a wall, both him who is shut up and him who is left at large in Israel. I will make Ahab's house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Ahijah. The dogs will eat Jezebel on the plot of ground of Jezreel, and there shall be no one to bury her. Then he opened the door and fled. When Jehu came out to the servants of his lord, and one said to him, Is all well? Why did this madman come to you? He said to them, You know the man and how he talks. They said, That is a lie, tell us now. He said to me, Yahweh says, I have anointed you king over Israel. Then they hurried, and each man took his cloak, and put it under him on the top of the stairs, and blew the trumpet, saying, Jehu is king. So Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram was defending Ramoth-Gilead, he and all Israel, because of Hazael, king of Syria. But King Joram had returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him when he fought with Hazael, king of Syria. Jehu said, If this is your thinking, then let no one escape and go out of the city to go to tell it in Jezreel. So Jehu rode in a chariot and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there. Ahaziah king of Judah had come down to see Joram. Now the watchman was standing on the tower in Jezreel, and he spied the company of Jehu as he came, and said, I see a company. Joram said, Take a horseman and send to meet them, and let him say, Is it peace? So one went on horseback to meet him and said, The king says, Is it peace? Jehu said, What do you have to do with peace? Fall in behind me. The watchman said, The messenger came to them, but he isn't coming back. Then he sent out a second on horseback, who came to them and said, The king says, Is it peace? Jehu answered, What do you have to do with peace? Fall in behind me. The watchman said, He came to them and isn't coming back. The driving is like the driving of Jehu the son of Nimshi, for he drives furiously. Joram said, Get ready. They got his chariot ready. Then Joram king of Israel and Ahaziah king of Judah went out, each in his chariot, and they went out to meet Jehu, and found him on Naboth the Jezreelite's land. When Joram saw Jehu, he said, Is it peace, Jehu? He answered, What peace, so long as the prostitution of your mother Jezebel and her witchcraft abound? Joram turned his hands and fled, and said to Ahaziah, This is treason, Ahaziah. Jehu drew his bow with his full strength and struck Joram between his arms. The arrow went out at his heart, and he sunk down in his chariot. Then Jehu said to Bichar, his captain, Pick him up and throw him in the plot of the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. For remember how, when you and I rode together, after Ahab his father, Yahweh laid this burden on him. Surely I have seen yesterday the blood of Naboth, and the blood of his son, says Yahweh, and I will repay you in this plot of ground, says Yahweh. Now therefore take and cast him onto the plot of ground, according to Yahweh's word. But when Ahaziah the king of Judah saw this, he fled by the way of the garden house. Jehu followed after him and said, Strike him also in the chariot. They struck him at the ascent of Gur, which is by Ibleam. He fled to Megiddo and died there. His servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his tomb with his fathers in David's city. In the 11th year of Joram the son of Ahab, Ahaziah began to reign over Judah. When Jehu had come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyes and adorned her head, and looked out at the window. As Jehu entered at the gate, she said, Do you come in peace, Zimri, you murderer of your master? He lifted up his face to the window and said, Who is on my side? Who? 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. He said, Throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses. Then he trampled her underfoot. When he had come in, he ate and drank. Then he said, See now to this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. They went out to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull, the feet, and the palms of her hands. Therefore they came back and told him. He said, This is Yahweh's word, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, The dogs will eat the flesh of Jezebel on the plot of Jezreel, and the body of Jezebel will be as dung on the surface of the field of Jezreel's land, so that they won't say, This is Jezebel.